there was a big video that was sort of explaining some of these different types of videos. Another one was like unboxing videos as an example of something like that. And the video that was up there when we were in the room was talking about reaction videos.
Oh boy.
And how they've become such a big deal. And I've never thought about this before, but what this video posited is that reaction videos weren't really a thing until 2007 when people posted reaction videos to Two Girls, One Cup. And that is the moment in which reaction videos are born.
Holy shit.
And then it went on to talk about like modern day reaction videos, and it was showing like, kids react to weird food or something.
Yeah, like the Smosh stuff.
Isn't it fucking crazy to think that like the ancestor of those videos is people being like, oh fuck.
Jesus.
Those girls are eating poop.
Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 5, DaisyChatz. My name is Allen, and I'm joined by an accessory. And I'm not talking Gucci handbag. I'm talking podcast pal, longtime friend, and the rap game Millhouse Van Houten. It's Magellan. How's it going, friendo?
Fuck.
Yeah, I did that. I went there.
I am the rap game Millhouse. That's gonna be on my tombstone. You really got me there. I'm good, man. I tried to start this thing. So I'm a teacher, a high school teacher. I tried to start this thing with my students where instead of saying "sound good," I would say "Gucci," like everything Gucci, and then their response is they go "Gotchi." Like,
oh my god!
Like, gotcha. And one of my 3 classes of the day loves it or loved it, like adored it.
Yeah.
It's their favorite thing. One class was like, that is stupid. We're never going to do that. And then the third class was the one I had at the end of the day that had 28 kids in it and was always crazy, and I never told them about it. Because
they're not allowed.
I was worried about what would happen.
Yeah, we'll have issues.
But really, people were really split on it. But I can't express enough, every single student in third period, they loved Gucci Gotchi.
Gucci Gotchi. Man, so. Gucci Gotchi is my favorite Pushing Daisies character. It's from the episode where Ned investigates the death of the last Sicilian making pizzas in Little Italy. And
yeah, this is a game. Once we're done with this show, it's just trying to improv Pushing Daisies. Plot.
Improvised Pushing Daisies. It's my new it's my new show at the Magnet Theater. Bleh. No, let's not dump on any improv theaters. They're all
No. We're not making fun of it. I'm just doing a sound that's like at real life.
At the truth. This whole show is real life. That's just facts.
I take classes at the People's Improv Theater, so it's a rival.
Oh, is that your shout out?
It's a rival theater. Yeah, shout out.
Shout ha. Do they have a website? Do they have like a Twitter? Do they have like a LinkedIn?
You can go I don't know why I'm advertising for them, but you can go over to the pit-nyc.com/classes.
There you go.
And sign up for one of their classes. I've had a good time. Anyway, this show's not about where to have the best improv classes in New York City. The show's about Niet. Yeah,
I said no in Russian. Wait, no. I'm sorry, all Russian listeners. I forgot which one is Niet.
Yeah, that's Russian.
Yeah, but what does it mean? Yes or no?
It means no.
Oh my god, I was right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah.
That's gonna be useful in a few years.
Oh god.
the way this country's going. Anyway.
Oh god, real life. God, okay. Real life.
Anyway, this is a show about Pushing Daisies, the television program that was on like 10 years ago.
That's so long ago. It was crazy.
A while ago. We were in freaking middle school, my man. we were in high school by this point. We're in freaking high school, my man.
Yeah, we were talking about like the Manifest Destiny and like...
Not in 9th grade.
We were in different history classes. No, who did I... God, yeah. I don't think anything about 9th grade. I don't remember anything about high school until I had a good friend group, which was like 10th grade.
Ninth grade history was half ancient world history and
Yep.
half U.S. Civics and government.
Now the question is, why didn't we do more about the rest of the world?
Very good question. I took ancient world history and then I took global history, but in a very kind of Eurocentric way.
Uh-huh.
And then I took AP US history and AP European history. So
Just kind of the full
never-
spectrum of white people.
of whiteness. Yeah, never really talked about Africa much.
After what?
If we're thinking about South America, I learned about Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín, and no other people.
And that's it. The only people in South America that were ever important. No dictators, no political movers.
Don't
nothing.
think we talked about Asia in
Anything.
ninth grade. In
Man.
seventh grade, our teacher really loved Japan, and so we watched a lot of Japan documentaries.
I was just going to say, did you watch a bunch of anime in 7th grade?
No.
Love Japan, just a huge weeaboo, and kind of that was what we did. I watched
So
all of
that was
Naruto.
that. Yeah, so when I went to college and I took a history class on Middle Eastern history, I was like, oh, fuck, this is
Wow.
awesome.
It's sick. There's like a whole thing going on.
Wow, I have no context for this at all. This is great.
We have
How did
context for
how
the
did we
show.
get here? Yeah, okay, thank you.
We have context for the show that we watch this season. It's called Pushing Daisies, and we watch usually 2 episodes a week. But this week
Yeah.
we're running a special episode. It's a special. It's a 1-for-1
That's a good way to-
special.
It's a good way to reframe what we're doing.
I thought a lot before we started recording about how should we frame this in a way that makes it sound like we're giving them more somehow.
Sure, I'm traveling this week. I'm going to visit my dad in Oregon.
My
and so
dad!
it's makes things a lot easier for me if we only do 1 episode. So I'm sorry, folks, if you're looking forward to a double header, but it seems like we're already going to give you as much time just because we're dicking around so much.
Hell yeah.
So you won't get less content. Yeah, so we're only talking about 1 episode this week, and then we'll be back to 2 a week up until the end of the season.
Of the show.
But we figured we wanted to more highly value being on time than doing 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's more a million reasons, but yeah, I think it'll still be a fun one.
Yeah.
This week we watched season 2, episode 5, Dim Sum, Lose Some.
Ugh.
That real life. I love that phrase. This episode was written by Davey Holmes, directed by Lawrence Trilling. Davey!
Davey.
And it aired October 29th, 2008. Magellan, real quickly for me, what happened this episode?
Yeah, a little shorter pitch for you here. The facts were these. The wife of a murdered chef, Bao Ting, did it... Okay, first of all, I feel like the name changed partway through the episode.
To what?
Because it was Bao Di at the beginning.
No. Oh, because it was Lady.
Lady married to Bao Di, but then later in the episode, someone said Bao Ting.
Wait, is it not Bao Ting Lee? You know what I mean? Like, could it be
D, you mean?
Bao Di Lee? Yeah.
No, Bao Ting Di. I don't know. I think they changed it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, the wife of a murdered chef, Bao Ting, we're getting this from the Pushing Daisies wiki, hires Emerson to investigate the death of her husband. Meanwhile, Simone and Bubblegum pop back into Emerson's life. That's like the beginning of the episode setup, and we'll go from there. Alan, what did you think of this episode?
I thought that her name was... this is actually confirmation, sorry. I needed to get it out there. Lady Ting is her name. His name is Bao Ting. So it's a first and last name. She has kind of two-part first name.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I thought this was a really fun episode. I liked all of the characters. I really liked the focus on the side characters that are introduced here. I think it's just really... It's still kind of novel to me to see, like... this much racial diversity on a show whose main cast is still primarily white people.
Sure.
Like seeing this be take place entirely almost in an Asian restaurant and be about and the only like romance that is in this episode that it's focused on is between 2 black people, and it's just like this is what Pushing Daisies is. It's a show that takes tropes and ideas that we've seen before and reminds us that in real life we don't all look the way that we look on cable TV. You know,
Yeah.
This is like a normal ass, like there's a gambling ring, controversy, insurance fraud, noir plot, except everybody is it's very diverse.
Yeah,
That was fun.
yeah, I agree. It lets us have a plot that in another procedural would be populated by white people, probably, um, and has just a large variety of characters, like the concerned daughter, the kind of like the socially inept manager guy, the scary crime boss, the bumbling bodyguards, and everybody is Chinese or some variety of Asian, which
Yeah.
is not something you see very often. And at first, I was sort of like, I don't know, but I think I've come around to thinking that it's cool that they're doing a version of those tropes to kind of show, like, it's just people at the end of the day. Like, you can cast these characters in any way, and it's still a story that you recognize.
Right. And in most of the episode, I'd say like 90% of the episode, it is just people. It's not like them being Asian doesn't affect the story that much, other than the fact like it's a restaurant, it's a specific type of restaurant, it being a dim sum restaurant, but you could replace pork buns with spaghetti or something. Like, it's not nothing about it makes it specifically about that. And then we talk about marrying daughters off.
Yeah.
And we talk about like giving women away and this whole thing. And I like the daughter character. We're referring to the murdered man, Bowdy's daughter.
Yeah.
And this basically it's an insurance fraud plot, like we said. And she is the prize. And it's one of those things that's like, I wanted to ask you, like, is that a stereotype that you've that we think, like, is that a bad? It's kind of a hard thing to think about.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. It is.
Like, that felt weird to me. I was like, are we, like, we're doing, like, there are so many shows about Asian families and having, like, the daughter either be sold off or having to rebel or something. And it, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I think to me, more so than that, this episode just felt very classic noir. Like, the way it's more focused on Emerson and the way it was lit and the way it was shot.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed more consciously evocative of noir than like other episodes of this show are. And I could see there being a movie like that from like the 50s where somebody's dad agreed to marry them off.
Yeah.
I think that more so than being a stereotype about Chinese people or Chinese Americans, I think that's just like an old-fashioned plot.
Yeah.
But maybe it is stereotypical to think that culture is particularly old-fashioned, and that might be where that's coming from. So I don't know. I think it didn't stick out to me as much when I was watching, but I can definitely see why it would raise some questions.
And I mean, the noir comparison is important because, we talked previously about the show keeps going back and back and back to villains and murder plots having to do with money.
Yeah.
Like, money is like the root of all evil in Pushing Daisies. It's starting to seem like.
Yeah.
And I guess you can tie that back to the themes of, Ned and Chuck's whole situation, because money is one of those things that is explicitly tied to being alive and to being like in the real world. Like, that's just the thing we have to deal with living. And it's the thing that in death you can get past. But everybody who is alive and is then or killed in this show, so far it seems like has at some point to do with money or a career.
Yeah, or love. I think that
right.
Just like in general, when you're thinking about crime, the two motivations that all human beings can understand are
money,
something related to money or envy, and something related to love or to lust or to being spurned or whatever. And it's interesting that we have main characters who are motivated by those same things. Like, Emerson is a main character who's motivated almost entirely by money himself.
Yeah.
And Ned and Chuck are main characters who are and Olive as well, who are motivated almost entirely by love. Mm-hmm. So even the good characters share some common set of motivation with everybody else in the world. It's just a matter of your context can lead you to take certain actions based on those motivations that are ultimately criminal.
Yeah, this is like, I feel like an episode I could see them making an old-fashioned poster for that has like all of the main characters, and like it feels like you could totally, like you said, put this back several decades and it would make sense as coming out in like the 50s in black and white or something.
Yeah, and I mean maybe that's just because of like Chinatown, the movie,
Yeah.
that I'm thinking that. But it does. There is something about like, I don't know, like specific ethnic neighborhood, detective, kind of lone detective, family intrigue, betting and gambling. All of that feels like it fits in a classic noir story in a way that some of the recent plots that we've had, like like Frescourts, does not really feel like a classic movie in that way, or even the Nun one that we just did that I don't remember the name of.
Mm-hmm.
That also doesn't feel that way. Yeah.
Well, those episodes end up feeling more like modern TV then, so it kind of splits the difference.
Right. They're more like modern kind of police procedural sort of
right.
things. Or,
and I think a cool thing that separates this episode from its noir influence is the character of Bao is murdered due to money problems, and that is something like they don't show. Noir doesn't often talk about the immigrant experience and what it's like struggling to raise a family.
Yeah,
and that is the center of the murder in this episode. This is a guy who's kept up late at night by the fact that he can't support his family despite his business going very well because it's not going well enough, and he's cutting so many corners and doing his best, but he has to resort to gambling. Gambling is not a thing that we do because we're doing well. There's like this stereotype that rich people gamble, but it is a known fact that the people who play the lottery the most are lower income because there is this myth in America that you can shovel your way out. And you're supposed to do that, and that's good and healthy and productive.
Yeah, and I don't know, that plot, the sort of like immigrant experience parent who's doing their best to support their family, that to me felt more like it was stereotypically an Asian American story in a way that kind of gave me some pause. Not a bad way. I just, it's just odd to me that like this just feels in some ways, in a good way, like the Asian episode, and in some ways that's a bad thing.
For better and for worse, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's something that like I'm certainly having a hard time like navigating and talking about because I'm a white guy, so I'm sure I've said some things or phrased some things in a way that are offensive, and I apologize for that. I hope people understand that my intentions are not to do that. But it is, there's something to be said for the fact that like, oh, okay, yeah, this is set in a Chinese restaurant. So of course, like the guy who started it is an immigrant, and of course there's like weird gambling going on in the community, and so in some ways it's good to be able to cast a sort of diverse cast in this episode, but on the other hand, it does draw on some tropes that are like, I don't know if they're reinventing these tropes or if they're just enacting them.
If they just are doing the trope, right?
Right.
I think I agree. It feels weird, and it sort of just feels like a substitution of characters. But a couple of things that worked for me about that aspect of the episode were, like I said, the side characters take a big focus in this episode.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that the character of Shrimp Boy gets an arc.
Yeah, and he gets to make the final decision.
Yeah.
And the daughter has a lot of agency in this of like seeking out Emerson's help, and and I think that's what makes the like give away the daughter plot work for me, is that she is an active participant in making sure that the murderer's found. Right.
It's a like giving the child away as much as it is giving away the daughter, and she has control of the money and what happens in a way as well.
Yeah.
It's a really it's an episode that does reach for a lot though. Like and some things I think work, some things don't. The whole like Perry Long plot Perry Long being the like insurance investigator thing.
Yeah.
Kind of felt to me like sometimes Pushing Daisies just like adds a third tier to its episodes just to like get us to its ending.
Yeah.
And I think that like Emerson sitting in the back of the restaurant with like Ned and Chuck and going like, that busboy is acting weird. Who is that guy? And then he gets killed exactly the same way that Bao got killed. And then him like getting resurrected and talking about all that stuff is just like, oh, we are just, this is like a nothing plot. Because I do give Pushing Daisies credit. It's actually like episode length wise shorter than its contemporaries. Like even your standard cable police procedural is like at least 45 minutes. And we also live in the Netflix age where everything is at least 50 minutes to an hour, to an hour and a half. Pushing Daisies episodes, I don't think have even ever hit 45 minutes. It is always like 35 to 40 minutes.
I think this one was maybe like 42 or 43.
Right. It was like just tickling it, but like they could have. That's what I'm saying is like if they just cut that plot out, it would have been an even tighter episode.
Yeah, it felt like it was a diversion or a red herring that we didn't ever really believe. Like he's seeing these pictures of the busboy, and it's like that's supposed to mean something to us. And then as soon as we're starting to think that maybe it means something, the episode's like, no, it doesn't.
He's dead. Don't worry about it.
Anything. Yeah. He's dead. Yeah.
I think I felt the same way about another plot in this episode that I'm not remembering right now. Well, I mean, so the Ned stuff doesn't get a lot of time though.
Yeah. In an okay way, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't need to yet. It's set up. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
We this whole season has been like Ned's whole thing has been like trying to get over himself and trying to grow up and understand who he wants to be as an adult.
Yeah.
And part of that coming to that is realizing that you have family that you probably should care about in some way, or at least make the effort to reach out to.
Yeah. Yeah, so the entirety of the Ned plot is basically, at the beginning of the episode, there's some mysterious guy at the pie hole who's like, hey, you cook pies as good as your mom, and you talk nervous like your dad does.
Yeah.
And Ned's like, who the fuck are you?
Who's Mans?
Bro. He doesn't say it like that at all, even though at the beginning of the episode he says cautious Ned has left the building, and then proceeds to be cautious throughout the rest of the episode.
Ned feeds himself bullshit. That's the thing, you know?
Yeah. He says, do you ever shiver when you pee? That's how I felt when he spoke.
When I read your note that said that line, I was like, wait, does Ned fall in love with someone in this episode?
Yeah.
That sounds like a cute romance thing, I guess.
So we have this guy, his name's Fred Dixon.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
It is Fred
Dixon. His name
wasn't
correct. Dwight? There wasn't anybody named Dwight?
I don't think so.
Okay. So Dixon is ostensibly looking for Ned's dad, and Ned's like, I can't help you. And then it turns out Ned has his dad's address, which he gives to Chuck after a very cute scene.
It's Dwight Dixon.
Dwight Dixon, okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. Which he gives to Chuck after a very cute scene where they have their arms folded on the table and they're just sitting their heads on their hands. I really like that. They have really great chemistry, the two of them.
Yeah, that I loved. Yeah, the way that shot was framed, like it's super tight on both of them, and they're both like you sit that close and you do that thing with your hands because you just kind of want to be quiet, and it's like the closest thing to isolating the two of you.
Yeah.
In space together, and it's very charming and good, and I like both of them a lot. Yeah.
You just believed the way they were talking that like the other person was the only person in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so then Chuck and Olive go to this house where Ned's dad theoretically lives, and they find out that there are two beautiful young boys who live there.
Two sweet men named Maurice and Ralston.
I loved and Ned's reaction to that. It was so fun.
I wish I wrote the whole thing. It was so long. He was just like my dad clearly like didn't try with my name and then went overboard with them, and then he's like, all right, nice to meet you, Mauricio and blah blah blah.
Yeah, Mercutio, and like he's saying Shakespeare names.
Yeah.
So they're these wonderful handsome sons who are also magicians and also live alone. And yeah, we find out that Ned has half brothers, and he meets them at the end of the episode when he reaches his revelation. Even though we didn't get a lot of time with Ned this episode, I still feel like the revelation that he receives is pretty significant. Where the narrator essentially says at the end of the episode, like, Ned realized No, Ned says this to Chuck. He says that it was easier for him to like assume why his dad did what he did than to admit that he had no idea.
Right.
And it's easier to sort of invent and create a narrative around people in your life who harm you so that you can sort of defend yourself. But it can be really vulnerable and scary to admit to yourself that maybe they did what they did because they had a good reason.
Right.
And like, maybe I have to let go of the fact that I hate this guy because I can understand why he did what he did. It's like a really mature moment for Ned to be able to put himself out there and say, okay, let's figure it out.
And I think the realization also that his dad also left them suggests something about his arc with his dad, that like, you cannot get over your fate, your fundamental flaws as a human by just growing up and by not acknowledging them, because then you'll be Ned's dad and you will always be a person who abandons their kids.
Yeah.
You have to work, like we said last week, like you have to do the uncomfortable work of thinking about yourself and criticizing yourself. And Ned's dad clearly didn't do that, and he's just repeating the cycle.
Yeah.
Of tearing apart families. You know, like just dating, trying it out, not liking it, bouncing, doing it again, like repeat ad infinitum. And Ned is seeing the next round of that happening to people and going like, oh well, shit. You know, like we talked about when he bonded with Randy, in a way he can bond. These are like the other people who had the same exact experience with his dad.
Yeah.
And they're they're around his age too, which is wild. They're not that much younger than him. So, his argument to Chuck for why he didn't want to talk to them was he didn't want to bond with them because that would make his dad happy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to do this because it would
really
make my
interesting.
Dad. Yeah, exactly. It's Ned's relationship with his dad is so much of his arc in the show and this season. It feels like it's entirely about that for him. I wonder, like, do you like that more than the Ned and Chuck stuff, or do you
to me that is a Ned and Chuck thing. Like,
yeah,
there comes a point where, so again, if this show is about like a long-term relationship, then an incredibly important part of maturing in a long-term relationship is being with somebody who can help you navigate things that have been really difficult for you, and like growing together and what growing together looks like, learning things from the other person, taking those things on and changing to become a better person because of what the other person inspires you to do. Ned would not be doing this at all if it wasn't for Chuck. And so, yeah, it's not about like, oh, are they going to fall in love? Oh, they went on a great date. Oh, they had a nice kiss. It's not about them in that way, but it is still about the way that they care about each other and the things that they do for each other and the effect that they have on each other. So in like, that way, I like it better.
I think overall, Chuck has been one of the best things for Ned because she's the first person to confront him on this stuff.
Right.
Like, that is what I personally would always want out of a partner, is somebody who can tell me to my face that I have a problem that needs working on and can help me through that in a way that's still affectionate and shows that they care. Because like Olive, to be honest with you, probably would not get there with Ned.
Yeah,
you know, because she just like, likes him,
idealizes him, and that sort of thing. And Ned idealizes Chuck in a certain way, or at least he did, and maybe he's starting to move away from that. But yeah, this show is modeling that love is about not only admiring the other person and being doughy-eyed, but being challenged by the other person, and taking on that challenge and pursuing it to become better yourself. Yeah. So we'll probably see more from the brothers next episode. At the end, Dwight Dixon was in his car and had a gun or something. So
sure.
Okay. Cliffhanger, I guess.
Okay. I don't know what that means. Like, he is threatening Ned. I mean, he's a bad guy. Like, we know he's a bad guy. Probably. It's nothing right now. It's just like a smoke. It's I mean, it kind of literally a smoking gun. Or a Chekhov. Oh, a Chekhov's. Is it a Chekhov's gun, Magellan?
Yes, literally, it is a gun.
That's what that is. Yeah, we don't. I mean, we just it's a setup plot, you know.
Yeah.
And I like Stephen Root as Dwight Dixon. I think Stephen Root's like probably
He's
top
great,
3 character actors for me.
Yeah.
He's just fantastic. He can either play hilarious like the stapler guy from Office Space, or like a villain on.
That's where I've seen him before.
Yes, he's that guy.
Yeah.
Or he's played several really good villains. Like he has a ton of range.
Yeah.
But yeah, to just kind of come back to the main plot, I had a couple straight notes. One being that I really like the idea of dim sum poker.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was cute, but very impractical.
Yeah,
like a waste of food.
Huge waste of, because they say they only eat the food if police come. Because the way that they dole out the hints is someone's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And then the old man comes to the pie hole and goes, "There's an illegal gambling ring." But the police never caught them, and then they go there and they're like, "Oh, the illegal gambling ring is dim sum poker, where instead of cards we use food." And we play with food, and like everyone knows the values of like each type of food represents a different face, and
yeah,
you know, you're listening to someone hunt and explain all this stuff, and you're just like, "Oh, yeah, that's just a lot of work." Like it's a really cool visual.
It's a great visual. It's a great bit of set design or prop design or whatever you want to call it, and it's a great bit of world building, because I love the combination of, it's a dim sum restaurant, but also it was like a gambling den speakeasy during Prohibition. That's a nice kind of cocktail of settings. But then if you think even for a minute about the practicality of doing that, it's ridiculous, because it's also not a full deck either.
True.
It's like a smaller fixed number of a variety of numbers in the deck. So someone getting a 4 of a kind isn't as unlikely, and all these things. And then also just like, I don't know, 5-card poker is kind of boring to bet on.
You're more of a Texas guy?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot. That was one of my more recent fascinations, was watching video compilations of Texas Hold'em. So,
ooh.
Yeah, pretty fun stuff. It's you know, it's a really interesting game, because it's like, I know that he thinks that I think that he thinks, kind of thing. Right.
It's all in the head, you know.
Game, yeah.
I never knew how to play poker that well, and then we played poker last season on the Garnet Wager, which you can find at scanlandmedia.com. And I mean, spoilers for that episode, but I fucking won that episode by a lot. Yeah. And like I kind of stumbled into it, but I was like, this is brilliant. Like, even playing this online with no camera and stuff is like really fun. And I'm like imagining playing this in person with a couple people, and like it's just a good vibe. It's really exciting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I liked the dim sum poker. I liked the idea of everybody dressing up to go to like break in and sneak into the poker game.
Yeah.
Not a gigantic fan. I mean, I'm huge. I'm like 57 feet tall. I'm colossal, but not the biggest fan of. Like the guys get to be funny characters, and then the women are all just waitresses.
Yeah. It sort of felt like we're playing Barbie or something.
Yeah, and we just they didn't have any more outfit. Like Chuck is like the god. Both Chuck and Oliver have always had amazing outfits. There is like a scene where they're sitting in the pie hole, and Chuck is in this like pink getup with like a pink hat, and you're like, just wear that. And like, no, we're gonna wear the like traditional red dresses and like the heavy eye makeup of the employees here. Meanwhile, Ned gets to be a cowboy, fulfilling every gay man's dream of seeing Lee Pace as a cowboy. And then Emerson just gets to be an extremely black guy, like a very much more so, just a stereotype.
Like talking faster, yeah.
And he's got like cool glasses, and he gets caught in like 3 minutes, like tops. Yeah, that stuff was fun. I think also it's almost like a joke how often these characters get tied up. I think like they've been getting tied up every episode since number 2 when they got tied up in the car.
That might be true, yeah.
People really like rope. Where's everyone getting all this rope?
I don't know. The rope store.
The rope store. Imagine just being the rope store employee in the town that Pushing Daisies takes place in, and just like tens of suspicious people are coming up to you like, yeah, I need enough rope specifically for like 3 medium-sized people. And he's just there. That's your living. Did you have any other stray notes here?
Yeah, I got a few. I feel like Olive having a crush on Dwight Dixon means that he's Ned's dad. But
you think so?
I feel like that's the case. But then he had the gun at the end, and so now I don't know what is happening there. And it also doesn't make sense that if that was the house that he used to live in, he would need Ned to help him find it. So that doesn't make sense anymore. But at the beginning of the episode, I was like, oh, that's Ned's dad. That's why she has a crush on him.
Right.
I was a fan of the fact that we had been seeing Emerson's window behind him for a while. And you keep seeing the Chinese characters on the window, and you're like, I wonder what the deal is with that. Like, where's his office? What's going on? And then we just do an episode where we see what's downstairs. That's cool. That's sort of a similar idea to what I was talking about when we did an episode about the nunnery. We'd seen the nunnery a couple of times, and then the show's saying, and now here it is. We'll go into this corner of the world. It was a question that I had in my mind, and they fleshed it out and they answered it. So I appreciated that. I had a thought. I was wondering, in the scene where Emerson and Simone first encounter each other in this episode, there were a couple like long pauses that the actors had to make for the narrators to say stuff, and it made me wonder how they did that on set and if that was like awkward to do, like holding for the narrator to say his lines. I'm assuming somebody off camera just read them, but I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, I would love to watch the behind the scenes that doesn't, like, it's just from them filming it, and you just have to hear like some like Doug from the guy who runs the fucking, what's the microphone that you put on top of people's heads? Boom mic?
Yeah.
Mike the boom mic guy is like, and then the narrator says, and Ned, the facts were these. And they just have to stand there quietly for 30 seconds, and then they cut to a flashback.
Yeah.
I always love seeing those things. That's really fun for horror movies, too, when you're like, you watch the behind the scenes, and you're like, oh, and then a big monster is supposed to come out, but really it's just Kevin in blue balls or something. My last note was that it's kind of interesting to think about how this show, because we got a new title sequence this episode.
Yeah.
Which basically is like a panning, like a sweeping shot through like a field of daisies, and like the credits come up in them, and the narrator tells us the whole premise of the show with all the characters and every major player.
Yeah.
Interesting that the premise is, detective who can bring people back to life for a minute, but the people he brings back to life almost never give him the good hints.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he doesn't, like, his power almost never saves the day. It just kind of gets us to the next thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of funny. Like, the coolest use of it in this episode is actually with the insurance guy, because Perry Long, because he gets killed the same way that the main guy gets killed, but they're like, all right, well, you thought you were out of this, but you're not out of this. Touch.
Right. In a normal murder mystery, that's like, shit.
Damn it, just
he's
missed
dead.
the thing.
Yeah.
So they get to be like, oh, shit, oh, wait. Oh, sweet.
Awesome.
This dead body at the beginning, the guy who actually was like the center of the plot, having the pipe through his head, slightly less ghoulish than like bees falling out of your mouth or formaldehyde vomit, but still kind of fucked.
Still kind of ghoulish. I also was weirded out by Ned's line where he says, "Let's be delicate. He may not speak English." Right before he brought him back to life. I don't know how to feel about that line exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna mention this earlier, but again, one of the things that makes them coming to this Asian restaurant and talking to all these people feel less weird is Chuck speaks fluent Chinese and is willing and comfortable to like speak Chinese to people and not like it's really easy to write a plot like this and have at some point like people start yelling in Chinese and the main character's like, what's going on? This is weird.
That's true. Yeah.
But instead they're like, no, like we have a main character who's like her entire investigation skill besides her personality and her ability to disguise herself is that she can speak basically every language.
Yeah, because she wasn't able to speak another language in a previous one.
Yeah, well, they explained it because she had a lot of free time as a kid and just like spent it listening to old like audio cassettes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just her hobby, was like learning all the languages.
What was the other one?
What was the other hobby?
No, the other language that she did this with.
German, I think.
Oh yeah, that sounds right.
I believe so. Yeah.
Talking about that scene, it sometimes is hard for me to suspend my disbelief about the fact that like these people don't just re-die as soon as Ned brings them back to life. Like this guy has pipe through his brain. He shouldn't be able to talk.
That's a good point.
He should just be dead.
Or like that other guy was full of formaldehyde. That's gonna like burn your body.
Yeah. Or like how, like if somebody is full of bees or whatever, like, how are they able to talk to you? I let it go because it's a whimsical, magical show, but it's hard to take it seriously sometimes. Let's see. Ned, when he writes his dad's address for Chuck, he takes out his little notebook, and she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's my clue pad for writing down clues."
Oh,
so precious.
It's like, I love that you have a. She says what I'm thinking, which is like, I love that you have a clue pad.
Yeah,
for clues.
We didn't really talk about the Emerson Simone relationship.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up next.
Here. They don't have great chemistry. I feel like
not enough to explain why they had sex. I mean, she seduced him. Like it's
like there was never really a moment where I believed that they were infatuated with each other, and maybe that's just because of their characterizations. Like she's a very reserved, serious person, and he's always dismissive of emotion. But I just didn't really ever buy like, oh my god, they're making out. Of course, that's crazy.
I agree they don't have a lot of chemistry, definitely. Definitely. But I like Simone Hunden as a character. I like that she can just kind of, as a recurring person, slide herself into different plots. Like she's a gambler, but she's also a dog breeder, but she also still can snap to make Emerson do stuff. She's very versatile in the plot. But now what is her purpose beyond giving Emerson somebody to be involved with? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's just, is her purpose, and this is a question for maybe you or for the audience or for whatever, is Simone Hunden's purpose now to be versatile, or is it to be somebody, like, to cause Emerson stress? Like, is she just his femme fatale and that's as far as it goes?
Right. It doesn't seem like this show is putting her in a position to have plots or to have a sort of significance beyond, like, the effect that she has on Emerson.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Some lines though that came out of that scene where they bone that I thought were pretty good.
Yeah.
Emerson says, "The more into somebody I am, the greater the odds it's going to end badly." So we learn a little bit about him there and about him being cautious after whatever happened with his daughter's mom. And then there's some smooching, and then narrator's like, "This is the first time the private investigator had ever been ordered to," and then she snaps her fingers and she says, "Come."
Come? Is it like, wait, are you guys allowed to say that? That's naughty. It was a lot.
This is a pretty dirty show.
I wrote here that the show is now, it's becoming explicitly horny, whereas it's often been implicit. They're just doing it now. Because Ned and Chuck stuff is like, that's why it felt weird that she just gets naked for him. It's like, oh, I guess, yeah, sex is a thing.
Because it doesn't feel like it fits the sort of tone of a show that always starts with a flashback to childhood.
Yeah, oh, exactly. And then like has a narrator who's like from the Harry Potter movies. Like it feels like a show kids can almost watch.
Yeah.
Like it's either, it can be dark, but like sexual is not.
It just feels off. But it still falls into the range of topics that you talk about when you have a show that's so frank about like about real relationships. You can't have that show without sex and without physicality. But yeah, it feels like when the narrator in the last episode said the word badass. You're like,
right.
Ooh, no, that's not your tone, Pushing Daisies.
Pushing
Daisies. I love every shirt in Emerson's wardrobe. They're
all
all
of
good.
them.
They're all great shirts.
I think you've confirmed that one of the screenshots I took has to be the thumbnail. I have a good like Emerson and oh my god, what's her name? Simone in like Chinatown with like all of the cool Chinatown like lights and stuff behind them, and his shirt is just on. It's just fantastic.
Yeah,
he's so cool looking all the time.
2 last notes here. First of all, I liked that. What was his name? Shrimp Boy.
Yeah, Shrimp Boy.
Shrimp Boy. I like that Shrimp Boy is the one who makes the moral decision at the end of the episode. That's sort of a reversal where you think that he's the bad guy or that he's the killer or something. And then it turns out that he has this code of honor that he follows. And I don't know. I appreciated that. And then one line that I thought was really funny is the narrator was talking about that the tea that they used to send the bodyguards to the bathroom. And he was like, and the leaves cause an uncomfortable fullness of the bladder. And then they're like, boss, I've got an uncomfortable fullness of the bladder.
Me too. I knew you were going to like that line. I was like something specifically about that. It's the character. It's like a T-ball kind of joke is what I described that as. Like they said the thing and then the other guy said the thing and that's hilarious.
Yeah, like in an improv show that would kill because it's like, oh, they're listening to each other.
Yeah.
Like the things that they say matter and exist.
Right.
That's why I liked it.
And yeah, when the narrator's lines matter, that's fun because they don't acknowledge the narrator, obviously. Although I have a thing to note about that later when we do our little ending thing. Do you want to do our little ending thing now that I'm...
Yeah, let's do it.
All that notes. So, usually, we were trying to do trivia for a while in the first season, and we realized that the show doesn't have a lot of good trivia, but I found... Excuse me, I had to hiccup. I found a really cool Mental Floss article called 15 Lively Facts About Pushing Daisies.
Okay.
And I did skim it already, so I will tell you that some of these are kind of cool.
Great.
It was originally intended to be a spinoff of Dead Like Me, the other like canceled show from the early 2000s, also by Brian Fuller. Which it makes sense. Like
they die are offered the job of Grim Reapers. They get rapidly healing physical bodies. Is this the one that I've maybe seen a clip from the first episode?
I think so.
Interesting.
There's that. There's also, do you want to know who turned down playing Ned?
Yes.
Adam Brody from the OC. Just a young, handsome guy. I mean, it works. You just need a young, handsome guy, but I don't think he's enough of a mensch to be.
Yeah, he's a little too square-jawed. He couldn't really shrug his shoulders the way that Lee Pace can.
Lee Pace brings a physicality to this role that's incredible, and that's just a fact.
He's perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Shai McBride pitched Emerson's backstory himself.
Ooh.
That's fun. Referring to all the daughter stuff. Anna Friel, who we always forget is British. Chuck is British. The actress who plays Chuck is British.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like she does kind of say things a little off sometimes.
Every time I think about that, I notice her accent, yeah. She was pretty method. She would use an American accent all day on set. And would kind of, it says here, dubbed the Anna by director Barry Sonnenfeld, Anna Friel would, before scenes, pump her arms rapidly like someone running in place to keep her energy up. Eventually, Lee Pace and the actresses who plays both of the aunts, Susie Kurtz and Ellen Green, did it as well. So that explains why she is constantly bubbly, at least partially. Speaking of method acting, Lee Pace stayed in character whenever Friel tried to hug him, which is super cute.
Oh,
like, oh,
stop it.
Oh. There was a rule from Barry Sonnenfeld about having no blues whatsoever on this show, like no blues in the soundtrack. Production designer Michael Wiley's
the genre of music.
Yes. Sorry,
I see.
Because production designer Michael Wiley's, and you'll like this part, instruction from Sonnenfeld was, quote, virtually no blues. No blues at all. The director hated, the color blue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even more interesting. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Yeah. Director hated blue before revealing another bigger influence on the show was the work of Nighthawks artist Edward Hopper.
Oh, I can see that.
Doesn't that suddenly make a lot? Isn't the pie hole just Nighthawks?
Yeah.
Like the way that it's always
the
shot
reds
from the
and
outside?
the greens and the yellows.
Hey, there it is.
Wow.
Yeah, I would love to just get a full list of like, tell me everything the show is inspired by. I love getting that as like extra reading material.
Yeah. Cool.
And Fuller never wanted to reveal how Ned got his powers. That makes sense. Here's a really fun one. Had the series continued, the narrator would have appeared, and no. Fuller intended to put Jim down in front of the camera. He also later revealed that Cy Richardson's coroner character was gay, and his infatuation with Emerson would have been introduced as a subplot if the Pushing Daisies had not been canceled.
Cool.
Hell yeah. That makes all those scenes work for me a little bit better. That's really nice. They're fun back and forth. I miss the coroner. Now I'm sad that we don't get more of the coroner.
Yeah.
I really hope this show doesn't like end. I've heard things about how it ends. Like it ends, it got canceled, so it ends suddenly. But it kind of
resolve though.
Yeah. It resolves clean. Like it resolves like, oh, we gotta go, like really rapidly.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see in several weeks. But that's what I got, man.
Yeah, man. Great. That's great stuff.
Now, even though they heard it last week, just to reiterate for the kids at home, you want to tell us which episodes we're watching next week on DaisyChatz?
Yeah, so you heard one of these last week, and you'll hear a new one right now. All right, so next week we're going to go, next week we'll watch season 2, episodes 6 and 7, and then we'll go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and that'll be the rest of DaisyChatz. So we've really only got 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes of DaisyChatz left. Can you believe it?
Oh my god, we're in the middle of August.
And we know what we're watching next, right, Alan? So
we do. Oh
yeah,
boy.
So don't be too stressed out there.
Yeah.
We think you'll like what we're going to serve up to you. But before we get there, next week we are watching season 2, episodes 6 and 7. First we'll watch episode 6. Oh, it's magic. We were excited about this summary last week, so let's read it again. Famed magician, the Great Herman, played by Fred Willard, hires Emerson Codd to come to the Conjurer's Castle to track down the killer of his animal assistants. Meanwhile, Ned makes a discovery of his own at the castle involving his newly found half-brothers, who we know are magician guys, so that makes a little more sense.
Oh,
yeah. Then, season 2, episode 7, Robbing Hood. A lawyer for the late Gustav Hofer, played by Shelley Berman, suspects his client's death was not a part of... A lawyer for the late Gustav Hofer, played by Shelley Berman, suspects his client's death was not part of a robbery gone wrong, as was reported, but rather murder. He hires Emerson Codd and Ned to find out who killed Hofer. Meanwhile, Dwight Dixon, played by Stephen Root, romances Vivian, much to the disgust of Lily, and discovers that Chuck is still alive.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh.
It's a mild spoiler. That's chill.
Yeah.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it to the plug zone. If you would like to contact us here at the DaisyChatz Studios, you can do so by tweeting at us at ChatzPod. That's CHATZPOD. You can also email us at chatspod@gmail.com. You can send us emails there. If you say it's okay, we will read them on the show in the middle of the episode, and it'll be a fun time. Please, we encourage you to rate us on iTunes and whatever other podcast platforms you may use, because that's how people hear about the show. And finally, if you would like to support us and support the show, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/chatspod. And if you toss us a couple of bucks over there, you get some cool exclusive content every month. Magellan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter at JustAFluke. That's JUSTAPFLUKE. They can also listen to my voice on another show called Adulthood at adulthood.simplecast.fm. Alan, what about you? You're not on Twitter right now.
Correct. But you can listen to me on 2 other podcasts, one of which is The Garnet Wager, which is found at scanlinemedia.com. As mentioned before, it is where my friend Six and I watch the Korean game show The Genius. And currently we are playing Fantasy Genius, which is like a sort of fantasy football-esque thing, except we're watching a game show. So
nice.
Check that out. It's really fun. And you can also listen to Fireside Friends, a monthly podcast found at firesidefriends.net, where I, my friends Ryan and Katie, talk about pop culture in sort of a more broad and chill environment. So that's where we're at. Kids, teens, adults, moms, dogs, people named Bryce.
I have a coworker named Bryce. He's great.
Is he great? That's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Does Bryce listen to the show?
No,
All right, follow-up question. Why doesn't Bryce listen to the show?
because I don't think he knows it exists.
Well, that's something we're going to have to fix, isn't it, Mr. Spaghetti?
Yeah, you're right, Mr.
Can
Penne.
Can you imagine somebody that you work with discovering your show without you telling them? And then they're like, wait, are you Magellan from Chats? Oh, my God. Real life.
And scene. Great. Good stuff.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Daisy Chats. Keep on living.